Busy morning here on Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. We got some breaking news. Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, saying that Gervon Dexter, Tyson Bagent, and DJ Moore are all drawing trade interest from other teams in the NFL. We will break it all down, kind of go one by one for each player here on today's show. But this is why you subscribe. Busy week at the Combine. We know there's going to be some roster movement here. Conversations ongoing. Ryan Poles said as much. Big discussions to be made this week. Big decisions coming as well. Hit that subscribe button. We're keeping you guys up to date with the latest Bears news in real time. Let's talk about Dexter first because we haven't really discussed him a ton. I did think there was a chance he would be a trade candidate this offseason because, as we've discussed at times, I didn't think we saw that year 3 jump. And, that's when you see a lot of players in the NFL take that big leap, especially in the trenches. And I thought he was fine. He did have a career-high 6 sacks. And I am not surprised to see that there's interest on the open market for him because he is an interior defensive lineman that can rush the passer. 11.5 sacks over a 2-year stretch is nothing to scoff at, but I didn't feel like he was a great fit in Dennis Allen's system this past season. I thought it was very up and down. He's never been great against the run, and, to me, through 3 years, he's kind of always left me wanting more. As physically gifted as he is, he hasn't fired on all cylinders. So, is that going to come in year 4? Or if you're the Bears, do you entertain a trade here? Now, obviously, like any of these trades, it will come down to value. If the best you can do is a 5th or a 6th-round pick, I'd just keep him because he's still, at worst, a solid rotation player, at best, a good starter. We've seen that at times. I kind of call him a serviceable starter, really good rotation player. That's the kind of caliber player I think you get here. But his inability to consistently defend the run does kind of limit his upside as a player. But what if some teams hey, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick. You drafted him in the 2nd, got 2 years out of him, flip him for a 3rd. I don't think that would be bad return at all for a guy who, let's face it, right now you would probably, I'll put it this way. If he was set to be a free agent, he'd most likely be testing the open market. Maybe you'd bring him back, but you would let him test the open market. So if that's where you're at with him, don't you have to entertain a trade? Again, I'm not talking about some pick swap, but team gives you a 3rd-round pick. I'd probably trade Gervon Dexter. 4th-rounder, I'd consider it. That's kind of in that gray area. If it's a high 4th-rounder, like a team picking in the first 10 picks of the 4th round, maybe I'd pull the trigger. The one thing I will say is, with Gervon Dexter, if we can take a look at the depth chart one more time, is if you do trade him, that room is very thin. You got Grady Jarrett, who's fine, solid veteran, but everybody else is a free agent or off your team, right? Dexter wouldn't be here. Billings is a free agent. I don't think that's a guy they want to bring back. I didn't think he was a great scheme fit with Dennis Allen. Chris Williams, you'll have Shemar Turner back, but he's coming off a torn ACL. Dio Adengbo, who can kick inside some, he's coming off a torn Achilles. You would have to add multiple defensive tackles, at least 2, if not 3. Now, you can do that. You can always find cheap guys in free agency. You could splurge on a guy. You could certainly draft someone, and I do think they will draft a defensive tackle on day 1 or day 2, if not both. They could double down, especially if they do trade a guy like Gervon Dexter. So let's see what happens. I think the value is the key here. If you can get a day 2 pick, I think that's something that's pretty appealing because, like I said, I don't think right now you could sit here and say, hey, Gervon Dexter is for sure a guy we would keep long term. Decent player, kind of leaves you wanting more when it comes to Dexter. Okay, let's talk about Tyson Bagent before we get to DJ Moore. So obviously a few days ago when Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson spoke to the media, they both acknowledged, we're getting trade interest and we're conflicted because we really like Tyson. We value him as a backup. He's a great locker room fit, and he's a solid, affordable backup quarterback with 2 years left on his deal. But in the more I've thought about this, again, value dependent, if you're going to trade him, this might be the offseason to do it. And here's why. If next year's draft is going to be littered with guys in the 1st round, Bagent's value a year from now is not going to be as high. He'll only have 1 year left in his deal. There will be more guys available in the draft. This year, there's a QB supply-demand issue. It was reported yesterday that Malik Willis could get north of $30 million per year. Tyson Bagent started 4 games as a rookie in 2023. In the last 2 years, Malik Willis has started 2 games. Now, I'm not saying Malik Willis is worse than Tyson Bagent. I'm just saying that points to the quarterback supply-demand issue this offseason. So I could see a team trading for Tyson Bagent, and I'll explore some teams coming up here in a moment that could trade for his services. But first, I do got to tell you guys about today's sponsor. That is Ethos. Life insurance is not a fun topic to talk about, but it's important, especially if you're like me and you have a wife, you got a child. Thinking about their livelihoods made it easier to discuss, and I'm so glad I found Ethos as my life insurance provider. I carry a lot of responsibility at home. If something happens to me, there's real consequences like mortgage payments, tuition, everyday bills that don't just disappear. Life can throw you curveballs, and it's best that you stay prepared. With Ethos, you can get life insurance in as little as 10 minutes. Ethos has no medical exams, just a few easy health questions online. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some policies are as low as $30 per month with Ethos. Ethos has a 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trapilo with over 3,000 reviews, so don't take my word for it. Thousands of others agree. Help protect your family with life insurance through Ethos today. Get your free instant quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That is ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times may vary. Check out Ethos today. Rates may vary as well. We appreciate them sponsoring today's show. All right, let's talk more about Tyson Bagent. So Ben Johnson called him a top 32 quarterback, and leading into the combine, we had heard the Cardinals could be interested. We had heard the Falcons could be interested, and I don't think it's smoke at this point. I think it's real. I think teams are calling the Bears. And to the point I made before telling you guys about Ethos, this offseason, there's not a ton of QB options, and there's a lot of QB-needy teams, whether that's for a pure starter, whether that's for competition, whether that's for a bridge guy for a year, whether that's just for, a high-level backup that could push the starter. There's a lot of teams that fall into those buckets, and I think these are some teams that stand out. Arizona, if they end up having to cut Kyler Murray, they're probably not going to want to spend big on a quarterback this offseason because they're carrying a big dead cap number for Kyler. If they trade him, they save money, but if they cut him, they don't. I could see them bringing in Tyson Bagent. They've got Jacoby Brissett. Just let those guys compete. Let the best man win. Atlanta, Ian Cunningham's there. Other than Ryan Poles and the Bears staff, no one knows Bagent as well as Ian Cunningham. Matt Ryan, who was seen on Hard Knocks visiting the Bears and his buddy Ryan Poles. They were breaking down some Bagent practice film. He's like, yeah, I feel like this guy has really improved and has something there. So he has been a fan of Tyson Bagent's. We don't know when Michael Penix is going to be back and healthy. We don't know if he's the answer. I could see them bringing Tyson Bagent in. Miami, similar to Arizona, if they cut or trade Tua, big cap ramifications, especially if they cut him. And so could they go the cheaper route instead of a Malik Willis and bring in a Tyson Bagent? That's a big why, throw the Jets in there as well and potentially a couple other teams. A big part of the appeal for Bagent is the contract. He hasn't played a ton of football. He's played a lot in the preseason. He started 4 games his rookie year. But I think it's the mystery of like, okay, Ben Johnson raves about this guy. He's cost control, 2 years. I think that's the appeal. If he had 1 year left, if he was making $10 million per year, I don't think he'd be as intriguing to these other teams. But you get a 2-year dart throw for one of these teams, and you might have something. And at worst, we know he's a good backup. He's going to know the offense. He'll learn the scheme quickly. He's a good teammate. So I think there's a lot of attributes that these teams across the league see with this guy. Clearly the Bears do as well. They're not just going to give him away. Like if they're like, yeah, I'll give you a 6th-round pick, the Bears are just going to keep him. But if it's a 3rd? Like, what if a team would give you a 3rd-round pick? And I don't think that's crazy in this offseason when there's not a lot of options out there. Would you rather sign Kirk Cousins for $20 million or give up a middle-round pick for Tyson Bagent? Maybe it's Kirk Cousins, but, I mean, you kind of know what you're getting there. There's a little bit of that unknown with Tyson Bagent and what he could become as a young, ascending player. Now, the flip side of this, and then I want to get to DJ Moore, is – for the Bears, okay, you trade him. Say you get a 3rd-round pick, you move him. Cool. I think that'd be hard to turn down. Well, who's your backup then? Is Case Keenum your backup? Are you bringing him back as your number 2? I don't know if at this stage in his career you want him as your backup. Tyrod Taylor, I've always liked as a backup. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he could be an interesting option as your backup. Joe Flacco has proven to be a good backup bridge option. Marcus Mariota has kind of transitioned nicely into being a high-level backup in recent years. Could you bring Mitch Trubisky back? I doubt it, but that would be interesting. Then some lesser guys. Kenny Pickett. I have no interest in Russell Wilson, but he'd be out there. Carson Wentz, Zach Wilson. Those guys don't really intrigue me. We saw Andy Dalton was available. Could you do like a future pick swap? Like, hey, you get a third for Tyson Bagent, which, again, I don't know if you would, but hypothetically, third for Bagent. Pick swap in 2027 with the Panthers. We'll send them a future 6th. They send us a future 7th for Andy Dalton. You're coming out ahead there from a draft capital standpoint, and Dalton as a backup is a high-level player. So I think there's always options out there to fill that QB2 role, but what's it going to cost you? Who's it going to be? Who wants to come here? So all those things come into play, which is why, again, with how much they value Bagent, they're not just giving him away, but you get into that day 2 draft territory, like that's when you got to start listening if you're the Chicago Bears, and clearly they've received some interest here. Okay, DJ Moore, also named as a player that has drawn some interest. Let me read the exact tweet here from Jordan Schultz. He says, 2 other names the Bears have received calls on: Tyson Bagent, who we just talked about, and DJ Moore. Moore has over $23 million in guaranteed money in 2026 and is viewed as available for the right times, for the right price for teams in the wide receiver market. So his is a little tricky from a contract standpoint. Would the Bears have to eat some of the cash flow? Obviously, we've talked about the cap ramifications with Chicago. They would save $16.5 million if they trade DJ Moore. They'd eat 12, but that's a significant decline from a $28.5 million cap hit. I've read between the lines this week. I think it's clear if they can find the right trade, they would likely trade DJ Moore to get some extra money to address some other areas of this football team: pass rush, linebacker, safety. Those are all positions they need to improve. So we'll see what happens there. Is it a 4th-round pick? Is it a 5th? If the Bears eat some of the cash flow, would a team out there give you a 3rd? Maybe. I do think you would have to eat some of the cash flow, but I'd probably be willing to do that if I'm Chicago. If I could squeeze out a 3rd-round pick, I'm not banking on that with the declining production and the contract, but we'll have to wait and see. I do think the Bears are clearly excited about the future of Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. You could draft a guy on day 3 to add into this room with Jade Walker. You could bring back, an Ozzy, Devin Duvernay as well. So there's always receivers you can find for cheap. So we'll see. I think clearly the Bears, and if you've listened to Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, these guys talk, it's like, these are big decisions that they got to make. These are tough calls because, a lot of these guys, especially DJ, obviously have made big plays here, made big plays last year, but it's about what's best for the team now and moving forward. And I don't know, if let's say you get let's call Gervon Dexter and Tyson Bagent. One of them fetches you a 3rd. One of them fetches you a 4th. Let's say you get another 4th for DJ Moore. So you get 3 draft picks in the middle rounds, $16.5 million in savings for DJ Moore. I'll go ahead and pull up the other 2 guys real quick just to play this hypothetical game. So $16.5 for DJ Moore if you trade him. If you trade Tyson Bagent, you clear $3.75. So let's just call that $20 million now, a little over $20 million. And then if you trade Gervon Dexter, you would clear $1.7. So you're clearing $22 million, and you would get probably 3 middle-round draft picks. I mean, that's not bad, right? Like, that's not bad when none of these players, I would say, are stars, right? DJ's a very good player, but we've beat that horse, the contract, the other guys you have available. Dexter's a nice rotation piece, but 3 years in, do any of us think he's becoming an all-pro? Probably not. He's probably close to what he's going to be. And then Tyson Bagent, high-level backup, but unless Caleb Williams just something crazy happens, he's clearly the guy moving forward. So are you keeping him just to be your backup? I would if you're not getting a good draft pick, but again, 3rd-round pick or something, yeah, I think you have to heavily consider that. So lots of moving parts here. I think you'll start to see some action at the Combine. We saw a trade earlier today. Jermaine Johnson, a guy the Bears were interested in at the trade deadline, got flipped for Tavondre Sweat with the Titans. So maybe the Bears get in on the trade action, and if they do, we will be going live. And it's Thursday, so we go live anyway, so stay tuned for that later today. Who do you guys think is the most likely to get traded here? Type GD for Gervon Dexter, TB for Tyson Bagent, DJ for DJ Moore. I'll say DJ's the most likely, Dexter 2, Bagent 3. I don't think they're just going to give Bagent away. I think they really value him, and backup quarterback, as we've seen in recent years in the NFL, especially an affordable good one, that's a good asset. So I would order it DJ 1, Dexter 2, Bagent 3, even though DJ's probably the best player of the three. Dexter's the second most impactful because he plays, and Bagent's a backup. I think that's how I would guess the ranking of likelihood, but I could see all three guys getting traded if I'm being honest. All right, that's going to do it. Long-winded show here on Chicago Bears Now. Stay tuned for more. We will continue to cover this here on Chicago Bears Now. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be live later this afternoon, if not sooner, if there's breaking news, so bear down.